Hey, welcome back to moveSKILL. I'm going to talk today about burpees and what's going wrong with the way you're doing burpees and how you can get more out of them. So the purpose of burpee, let's step back a little bit. It's a combination movement. You're squatting, you drive back to a plank, you do a push-up, you drive out of the push-up back to a squatting position, you jump. It's a movement complex. You're putting together different elements into a bigger combination movement. So movement complexes in general are awesome training tools, whether you're doing a Javorek complex with a barbell, whether you're doing it, you can do a body weight complex hanging from a bar, you can do a hanging leg raise slash pull-up, you can do a leg raise pull-up, muscle-up combination if you wanted to. So putting together, stringing together movements into more and more complex, more and more demanding patterns is a fantastic way to train, to get in work with actual skill practice. But when you do these complexes, the individual elements of the complex still exist. If you're doing a deadlift to a power clean to a front squat to a push press, your deadlift needs to be solid and your power clean needs to be technically decent and your front squat shouldn't be terrible and your push press, again, should be reasonably good. So with the burpee, what happens is typically, like almost all the time, so you, if you're watching this, almost certainly start the burpee wrong by reaching for the ground. Reaching for the ground, rounding your back, doing a terrible squat. It's not even a squat anymore. You're reaching for the back in a super compromised way that you would never do a deadlift or any other demanding movement in. You follow this terrible squat up with either a sloppy or a non-existent push-up. Flopping on the ground, snaking your back up, poor shoulder mechanics, poor midline mechanics. Getting back to your feet, you jump back into a spinal flexion position and then drive up on the toes, like so, complete muted hip function, and often follow that whole train wreck up with a failure to stand up all the way, so that like every single element of this sequence is terrible. This is normal, right? So if you feel singled out, you're in good company there. You can do better. You can get a lot more value out of this by doing a correct burpee, meaning executing these elements properly, a good squat with a nice neutral spine and proper hip function, followed by a quick wrestler type sprawl that can blend into a nice push-up, powerful drive up out of the push-up so you can get your feet back under you, and a great full hip extension. The problem that folks have with this is that when you try to do it well, do it technically correct, you discover you can't do as many of them and you can't do it as fast. And what I'm suggesting is that you really stop being delusional about this and just deal with the fact that you can't do as many or can't do them as fast, and use that as a starting point in your training. Here's the deal. If you execute this technically, not perfect, but decent, at least decent, although the better you do this, the better this works. If you have decent technical execution and you put together these movements properly with as much power and work capacity as you can bring to it, you're going to end up getting far more out of the exercise. And your training goal, all of your training goals will be better served. So where do some of these sloppy movements come from? Some of this comes from the demands of competition. And a lot of this is driven by what the rules allow in a particular competition. So in a CrossFit competition, often they will ask you or make a point of performance to touch the entire front of your body on the ground. That's a tool they're using to get your range of motion complete on the push-up at least. That's part of the requirements of running a competition, and you need to be clear for your own purposes that what you do in training is not what we do in competition. In competition, if the rules would allow you a certain workaround, you'd be silly not to take it. You're going to use as much expediency as you're going to do everything you can to move as fast as possible, and everything else is secondary. But that's competition. In training, your goal is completely different. In training, you're trying to train your body to adapt and get better at these things that you do. So be clear what your purpose is. seeing somebody burn through some burpees in a way that I just criticized during the games is a completely separate subject. When you're in your gym or you're working through a workout on your own, you're going to be better served, way better served, by keeping your training goals in mind and moving with as much technical skill as possible. So I hope this helps you. If it hurts your feelings a little bit, that's probably a good thing. Thanks.